Alrighty, it is Monday early afternoon. I did not shoot any video over the weekend. I was just working my little ass off trying to get stuff done. It was pretty boring anyway. But let's catch you up here. So I've made some good progress. Let's go in and take a look at it. Around. All right. So if you remember in the last video, I had said that I needed to put some screws into this new 2x6 that goes across the top to close that gap. There was a little light coming through, so I did put a number of sets of screws in here. Let's go take a quick look at that. And that gap has been closed. Looks good. Yep, happy with that. So then on Saturday morning, I spent a whole lot of time futzing around with this 2x6, this vertical 2x6. I spent probably 2 hours or more trying to get it plumb, and I was having a hard time with it. I would get it plumb in one spot and then it would be off in the other, and then I'd make that one plumb and then it would be off on the other, the top or the bottom. So I finally think I have it. It's all back out here. It's all plumb, straight, and perpendicular with the building here. So I got a square on that. That looks really good. And I did put a square up here and it's almost dead on. If anything, I could put a shim inside here to pull it this way, the backs or the front of the building that way a little bit, just a hair. I may not even touch it. It's so minor. And then if you look at the level, we are dead on and dead on, and there's no air gap at all along the level. So finally, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to have to put some little bit of shims in there and just tighten them up very, very loosely, and then put some caulk in there to seal all that up, because that's a pretty good sized gap. It's almost half an inch. So yeah, I got to do something with that, seal it up. It will get covered with trim, but I still want to put something in there before I finish putting the trim over the outside. All right, so the big thing is the doors and how the progress that I'm making on them. So these are the doors. I did get the top section where the plexiglass is going to be mounted. It's screwed basically to the top of the door, and that worked out pretty well. It's quite sturdy. And I got the compression members in on both doors. The fit was really good. I was very happy with it. Just snugly fit in there and, perfect. And I do have just one screw down here holding it in, and 2 screws, I think, from the top. How did I do that? Yeah, 2 screws from the top coming down. They were the extra long 4-inch screws. So it's not super secure in there. There's only 3 screws, but when I put the sheathing on, it'll get screwed both to the outer frame and to this compression member, and that'll tighten it up and shouldn't be any issues. I mean, where's it gonna go? It can't go anywhere. So yeah, it's fine. And I got the tension members installed on both doors, and I got basically the hole drilled through it, so that tension member just goes right through the compression member. And then finally, these triangles, these aluminum triangles. They are painted with 2 coats of paint on both sides. So you got this and this and this and this. So they are ready to install. So that's how it's going to look on the door itself. There's 2, same side, screwed into place on the bottom hinge side of the door, and then the smaller ones will get up here. Again, 2 on each door, same side, and that'll just help to stiffen it up even more. So, and I'm working on painting of the sheathing. This is the 1/8 inch Lawan plywood that's going to cover both sides of the door. And I'm just working on getting 4 sheets with 2 coats of paint on each side. So I'm almost to 4 sheets with 2 coats of paint on one side. So then when I get that done, I'll have to flip them all over and put 2 coats of paint on the back sides. And that'll be, front and back on this one, front and back on this one. And then I have 2 more sheets that I'm going to cut a rectangle like this with a hole in it for where the plexiglass goes. Alrighty, it is Thursday, December 11th, and time to catch you up. But I have not really been recording a lot of what I've been doing this week because it's been, well, I'd say 85% of what I'm doing is painting. Very boring. Painting and more painting, and then some painting after that. So yeah, I don't want to bore you with painting. So I have done some other things, so I'll catch you up really quickly on that. Let's go into the Quonset hut. You'll need some light. All right, flip this around. All right, one of the things I mentioned in the last video was that this 2x6 here needed to be propped up or pulled out a little bit on the top and made plumb, which I did. It all looks really good, but to lock it in place, what I did was I put shims on both sides all the way up here, right where each of the sets of screws are. And that just gives it a little bit of backing. And then I went ahead today and caulked it all up on the inside and also on the outside. So let's see if I can back, I'm gonna back this out a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So that's all been sealed up and ready for the door install on this side. This side's fine, no problem. It was just this one, I spent a whole lot of time getting that plumb and square to the building and made sure there was no wiggles in the 2x6 there, no gaps when I installed the door. So we're good to go. Anyway, so what else have I got done? All right, these are the 2 doors, and I got these braces installed. If you recall, I said I was going to use some flat steel, 1.5" by 3/16 steel. Well, it did come, and I'm looking at it going, man, that stuff is pretty thick. It's going to take a lot of work to cut that into pieces and then drill the holes and then countersink the holes and paint it and all. So I was, okay, let me just use a piece of wood. It's a lot easier. So I ended up just using 2 pieces of wood that I had cut off. I'm not sure where it came from, but one of the pieces of lumber that I ripped down had this fairly thick piece that I was able to just cut up and use to mount this between the outside and this compression member. So the screws are this way, and then there's screws here and here to hold it in there. And it works good. I mean, I think it looks fine. And of course, I'm sure you noticed the doors have been painted completely, both sides, several coats. I even put an extra coat on the bottom section on the bottom, because that's kind of where a lot of moisture tends to reside, especially if you get a heavy driving rain. It's going to all drip down and hang out at the bottom there. So did an extra coat of paint there. And you can see that I've got the aluminum sheets mounted. That is the bottom section. So 2 sheets, these are 2 here. I don't know if you can see that or not. So, yeah, 2 sheets. Boom and boom, all on the same side, and then the top section that's mounted as well. Also 2 sheets of aluminum. And okay, so after that, my biggest headache has been painting all these Luan sheets. So I have a total of 6 4x8 sheets of Luan, and each of them needs to get 3 coats on one side and 2 coats on the other. So that's like 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 2 is 12, 20, 30. So 30 times I have to roll these 4x8 sheets with the paint. And I've actually gone through 1.5 gallons of it already. So what I have done now is I have these guys over here on this rolling cart. I've got 4 sheets that all have 3 coats on one side and 2 coats on the other. So these are the 2 remaining sheets to be done. And these each have 1 coat on them on one side. So that's, let's see, 3, 5, 10. So I've got 8 more times I've got to roll these sheets with paint. So the problem with that is that you can only do 2 at a time. That's all the space I have, really. And believe me, even this is tight around here, getting in and out and trying not to step on it and put my boot print on the paint. Yeah, and then of course you have to wait about 5 hours between coats so that the second coat isn't basically just smearing the previous coat. So it's time sensitive, and it takes a while before you can, move on to the next coat of paint. So I'm almost there. I should have these done by Saturday, Saturday noon, and that'll be all the painting for the Luan. But then the other painting that I have been working on is the trim, and that's worse because it doesn't have 2 sides, it's got 4. And then each side has to get 3 coats of paint. And so I'm working on these 3. These really were going to be for the outer section of or to surround the top and sides of the carriage doors. But since it's taking such a long time, I may use them to actually trim the carriage doors first. And then I'll just move on to using other boards for doing the outer section around the carriage doors. And then these are also the little window mullions. I'm working on that. So I've got 3 coats on one side, and I got to flip them over and repeat the process 4 more times. So it's just taking forever, and I'm getting bored with painting. No offense to all the painters out there, but it's just not a job for me. I basically end up spacing out after a while and forgetting, what did I paint and where. So I'm not keeping actually track of it. I'm just trying to keep track of it in my head. But it's getting there. Almost done with the painting of the Luan, and I'm just starting with the trim. and we'll see how that goes. All right, also the little tool for cutting the plexiglass pieces for in here came, so I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to cut those pieces, and then maybe once I get those mullions painted up, I can install the plexiglass in the two top pieces. And I'm thinking maybe Saturday I can do a test fitting of the door, put it in place. I do know that I have to cut it down. It's just a little higher than this section here, so I think I'm going to be taking 3/8 of an inch off of the top here. So I'll disassemble this and then just run it through the table saw, and that should give me the exact height of the doors that I'll need. And I think they're pretty much the same on both sides. Maybe like a 1/16 of an inch difference, but it's pretty close. Oh, and then finally, since I do have the 4 sheets of Lawan finished with 3 coats on one side and 2 coats on the other side, I can actually sheathe the doors, this bottom section. So the sheet of Lawan is not big enough to go across the whole thing here, so I'll have one strip along the bottom that's maybe 1.5 inches wide, and then I'll have to cut it off here. So the Lawan sheet will go from here to about maybe 1.5 inches longer than the door, and then that'll overlap onto this, and then another piece of Lawan will get cut out with this hole in it, and that'll go on there, and then the piece of trim on the door will cover that seam all the way down. And then the one piece along the bottom that's only maybe 1.5 inches, that'll also get covered with a piece of trim along the outside of the door. So you won't see any of the seams for the Lawan on there. It's all going to be covered by trim. And then I got one more challenge, which will be on the Lawan. I'm going to have a trim go like an X. I'm going to do an X pattern, just like a typical carriage door. But there's no place for this piece going this way to screw into. So I'm thinking I'm going to put a couple pieces, maybe about 2.5, 3 inches wide on either side of this all thread, and then just screw it to the back of the Lawan. And then when I screw the trim piece here, it'll go into that piece on the back side of the Lawan. And that'll allow it to bite into something and hold it tight. I mean, like I said, I only have a certain amount of places to screw it. This is the inside, so I'll be screwing it on the outside, which is wood, up here and down here. So I can screw it in here, here, and here, but right now nothing here and here. So that's what those 2 pieces will allow me to do, to screw that one of the X pieces into some trim behind the Lawan. All right, well, I think that kind of wraps me up for Thursday. And yeah, I'll see how far I get on this painting and what else I can get done for the Friday posting. All right, talk to you later. All right, it's Friday, December 12th. And in order to speed things up here with regard to the painting, I've set up 2 more painting workstations. I had these 2 plastic box container things that I bought at Walmart. They were pretty cheap, about $9 a piece. They had a rollback price on them. I bought them a while back. I figured, let me just bring them down. I'll set something up, and then I can put the trim pieces on those. And I have additional workstations for painting the trim. And then I said, okay, well, that worked pretty well. So let me go get 2 more. And I set up another workstation for painting trim. And I have inadvertently created a situation in which I never have to stop painting. If I put a coat of paint on the sheets of Luan, do one, then the other, then move over and start painting the trim with the red and get another coat on all of these, and then switch over to the Southern Peach for these last 3 pieces of trim, and then do the trim over here for the window mullions. The Luan is basically dry and ready for another coat of paint. So I can continuously paint until I am done. But the good news is that, let's see, this sheet has 3 coats on this side. It just has to dry, flip over, and I got to put 2 coats of paint on that, and that's done. And then that one over there, it just needs 1 more coat on that side that you see there, and it is done. Which means I should have all these sheets of Luan completely painted and ready for installation on the doors. So you can see, okay, I got these here, and then I've set these other sheets of Luan over here on this rolling cart. So everything is painted, ready for installation. And then I got some extra trim here just in case I need it later for the doors, which I probably will, at least some of it. Well, I don't have another workstation for this yet, but I don't think I'm going to need it. All right, so once I get these sheets of Luan dry, once they're dry and they're painted, I can put them up there, and then I can lay the doors flat in these spaces here and get ready to install the sheathing on the doors. Now, the one handicap I have had, in addition to just continually having to paint, is that I can't use my saws. If I use the saws, it just blows sawdust into the air, and with wet paint, it just falls on that wet painted surface and sticks like white on rice. So I am stuck not being able to use either the miter saw or the table saw for ripping anything until I am completely done painting. So one of the things I can do is, since I'm going to be cutting the Luan along this axis of the 4x8 sheet, I'm going to be using the handheld circular saw. So I think what I can do is set up another one of these little, box workstations out there and just use the hand saw to cut that Luan down for the doors, and I can keep moving forward while I'm still painting trim pieces. All right, well, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to try and get the plexiglass cut this afternoon. That's up at the house, and kind of test fit that in these sections here. And as soon as I get these mullions completely painted, then I can put them back in those top frames and then test fit the plexiglass in there. And then maybe if I need to, I can just put a little temporary piece to hold the plexiglass in place until I can cut some additional mullions for the front side of the door to hold the plexiglass in place. So, all right, well, I think that pretty much catches you up. Oh, one more thing. I did want to mention that yesterday when I put the shims in this section, before I caulked it up, I used wood glue to make sure that they were sealed in there. So they're not going to be sliding around at all. That was like a permanent install of those shims just to lock everything in place. So I'm not getting any movement with this vertical 2x6. Just wanted to mention that as well. All right, well, I think that's it for Friday afternoon. Talk to you at the end of the day. See how far we get. All right, bye. Okay. Friday, December 12th, end of day. And just gonna wrap things up for the week. I did end up bringing out two pieces of the lawn that had previously been painted and were dry and cut for the doors. So I got one door with the inner sheathing and the outer sheathing done. And so what I did was I came outside with just took my horses, put it on there, and made the cuts outside so I'm not getting sawdust everywhere inside because I am still painting. Let's go in to the Quonset hut and still moving forward on painting, trim, boring stuff. I still got many coats to go, so I won't bore you with that. And then over here, I did get this door done. Well, not done, but it's sheathed on both sides. So this is, you're looking at the inside of the southern door. So it's this part here, right? And so it was not exactly precision cutting. I mean, it's okay. I think I can live with it. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen it a little bit more precise. But what are you going to do? So all I have to do left is I don't know if you can see it because everything's sort of just like this monolithic color. There's a little piece here that's got to be filled in. So I'll cut that off of one of the other pieces of Luan. And that's only because it's longer than 4 feet. So this is actually a whole sheet. And I didn't quite make it all the way to the other side of the door. And then at the top of the front piece, I've got like a little inch above the door, so it will hook into this section here. This is the plexiglass top piece, and then I can screw that together and that'll get covered with a piece of trim. So really, it's very monolithic here, but eventually we're going to get red trim all the way around the outside and then continuing up over here around the plexiglass with a cross member here and then an X on the door like that. So it'll look a lot different when it's actually completely assembled. And then down here, I'm just getting ready to cut the sheets for this northern facing door, and I'm almost done painting the lawn. So I only have enough paint for probably 2 coats, one on this one and one on that one, and that's done. The bottoms of these have been painted. This one needs one more coat, and I'm not even sure that needs one. I've lost track at this point, but these are sort of like extra sheets anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. The only thing I'm going to cut out of probably this one or that one will be the sheathing that goes around the plexiglass section, and then the other sheet will get small strips cut out of it to fill in, like I said, this section here. And on the other side, there's also a 1-inch strip that goes all the way down on the hinge side of the door that's got to be filled in. So that is it for the week. Hopefully I can get this door sheathed tomorrow, and I can hopefully finish up painting a lot of this trim by Sunday, end of day, and then I can maybe hang the doors on Monday and then start doing some trimming around the outside of the doors and then around the outside of the opening for the doors. All right, that's going to call it for this week, and I'll talk to you again next week.